Okay, I'm going to start this episode of the podcast with a disclaimer. There's a thing I do with my friends, and I have called it sweeping judgments. All of these opinions are our opinions. Everything we say is ridiculous. None of it needs to make sense. If you've come here for facts, this is not the podcast for you. This is not the episode for you. There might also be jokes. If you don't like jokes, I'm warning you now. Get your kid to take you out of the room because shit might go down. This is What Now with Trevor Noah. Welcome to Sweeping Judgments. Josh, I'm just going to jump straight into it.
Okay.
As a fellow gray hoodie wearer.
Yeah.
You knew this guy was going to shoot the guy, didn't you?
It's something.
Why are you still wearing the hoodie, by the way?
Okay, look. This is how I actually dress. So when he popped up, can I tell you one thing real quick about the whole thing before we knew who he was or anything? Yeah. When I saw that dude stand up and then like get the gun ready, everything, I was so thankful to see white hands.
Oh yeah, it was over for you.
Oh,
it was over for you.
Then
do you know how many videos have you wearing that exact outfit with that exact backpack?
Talking about CEOs. And so then CBS had the unmitigated nerve to say a light-skinned man.
Did you? Yeah, I noticed that shit. I thought I was the only one.
Do you want to know my conspiracy?
What's your conspiracy?
Italians are black again.
No.
Yes, because that woman from that Trumpy woman said Ariana Grande is taking white people's roles.
No.
She's Italian. I'm telling you, Italians are to be black.
Let me tell you something, Josh. I noticed
I've never light-skinned.
I thought I was the only one.
Yeah, I know.
I genuinely thought.
Now my theory, because it's come out he's Italian, I'm like, maybe, Yeah,
but they didn't know. But they didn't know when they made that statement.
But now what I'm saying, they're calling Italians light-skinned.
No. Let me tell you something. When that exact thing, because we all looked at the hand.
Yeah.
And you look and you're like, oh, okay, we know who this isn't.
Yeah, no.
And then they were like a light-skinned man. I was like, guys.
Come on,
guys. Let's not.
No, also, I don't want to, cast aspersions on my people, but the time of day, I knew they weren't black. It's too early to be doing hits. No. We're not doing, because at the beginning we thought it was
fired in the studio.
No, we thought it was some elaborate, they hired an assassin.
Yes.
And I feel like any black assassins out there probably work between 11 a.m. and 8 p.m. They're not gonna be.
I do not stand by any of these statements. I do not.
I'm just saying.
I won't let a black comedian woman make jokes about black people.
I didn't say we'd be late. I'm just saying that our working hours.
We have different working hours.
Would be slightly different.
You know what? I'm not happy that anything happened the way it did. However, I do think, because we grew up very religious, all three of us, that sometimes we are blessed in certain ways. I was chatting to Christiana about this, Josh, and I was like, oh man, I wonder if we're going to talk about it on the podcast. And Christiana was like, but we can't. She was like, we cannot because he hasn't been caught and there is no third act to the story. We know that
you started teasing me.
No, I was like, we know that an assassin shot the CEO. We know that he's on the run, but we don't know how it concludes. We haven't found him. And now we have found the suspect. I will say this, the suspect, because maybe he's not, and maybe he will be found innocent.
Can I interject with one other thing that is about this media frenzy that is a joy to watch? It starts out with something bad, but just maybe we'll get there. Maybe you'll cut this whole thing. It's up to you.
We're not cutting anything from this episode. Everything we use is staying in this episode. Everything. And if you are listening to this episode, terms and conditions. Anything you listen to beyond this point, terms and conditions apply. You have agreed. Josh, go for it.
So basically, there's a thing, and it's talked about in media, but it's almost only talked about by people of color because it's usually when it happens to us or we watch it happen. Whenever someone who is usually white, almost always white, but affluent, gets in trouble for anything, they use the best pictures of them. They show them in the best light.
Yes.
And finally, there are people who are like disgusted by this act, who are like from that normally protected group that have to watch the best pictures of this guy get circulated. Like, he hadn't taken a bad
He has
picture
not
yet. His
taken a bad-
driver's
he
license
genuinely-
looked good.
He genuinely has
I
not.
call him assassin-bae. Like, he is.
He has a fan club
Yeah.
amongst the ladies.
Yeah. Is that
this-
surprising?
Is this hot privilege? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. I mean, if you thought Ted Bundy got mail,
Oh, man.
It's also who he took out, right?
Yes.
So if he had shot a worker in McDonald's, for instance,
The person who snitched on him.
right, we'd
Yeah.
be like, that's
Not
not
cool.
But he literally like shot up. To use,
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
To use comedy terms, yeah. He punched
punched
up
or
and
shot
not
up.
down.
R.I.P. to that man, by the way. You know, father, family man. You know, we're dehumanizing CEOs right now, but people don't care about CEOs.
Yeah, well, I would never dehumanize a CEO.
No,
But
bad for business.
But we'll get into this later. But I think part of the conversation is going to be us discussing who gets to be the killer. Do you know what I mean? But let's first start with like the most recent news. He gets caught at a McDonald's. I don't know about you, but everywhere I went, people seem to be on this guy's side.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that somebody snitched on him.
So I'll throw two things out there, right? First one is this is not in defense of this person who did the telling. I'm just telling you what happened, right? In my experience, when you work at a job like that and somebody crazy come in, you just want them out by any means necessary. And so I think there is a part of you working there being like, look, I don't know. He might think I'm the CEO. I don't know what he's gonna do next. I will say though, there's some crazy irony in that, and I don't know if y'all have heard it yet, but I know all these things are happening in real time. Every minute there's like a new update and stuff.
Yeah. There's no, as we said, there are no facts in this podcast. These are all sweeping judgments. Keep going, Josh.
Apparently, they are not going to give that McDonald's worker the reward that they were advertising.
What?
Which is low-key hilarious, because if I lost out on $60,000, I would be mad enough to shoot somebody.
I don't understand what the logic is behind that, by the way.
The reward or not giving
No,
it to
the
them?
not giving the reward. I don't understand why. Like, apparently you've got to like claim it ahead of time
my
type
God.
thing. But I don't know what you've heard, Josh.
So what I've heard is that it's quote unquote complicated, which is a hilarious statement because it wasn't complicated when that man was right there. But apparently it's complicated because it has the actual reward to go out has to be approved by like two different bodies. And the first reward of $10,000, because remember, at first it was $10,000. And then they were like, oh, we're upping it. Apparently only one authorized person said that, not the other one. So then they're like, oh, we're not going to give you the money. And we got the guy. And what are you going to do? Sue us? We're the FBI.
You see,
go.
the system doesn't care about you.
No, it doesn't.
I think this story, I mean, it's, look, I'll echo what you said, Christiana. I am not happy for anybody to be shot. I do not wish for any CEO to be shot, etc. But, I found it interesting that companies and CEOs saw this moment first and foremost through the lens of them and their safety and their ideas, than seeing it through like how people were responding to it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, think about it this way. When someone tried to shoot Donald Trump, I don't know what the exact number was, but it felt like half the country was like, oh no. And then maybe like 30%, even 20% was like, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like a unanimous thing, right? This is Donald Trump, someone who people would argue the most polarizing figure in American politics. And when the CEO guy got shot, Twitter had some of the meanest and funniest memes produced in one 24-hour cycle. There wasn't even a single person who was like, guys, it's too soon.
Yeah.
I've never seen jokes never be too soon. And I don't understand why they didn't think of that first. Like, why was their first thought, oh, this shows you how dangerous it is to do our jobs, and not, oh, this shows you how the things we're doing in our jobs are so shitty that the whole country is for an assassin.
Think that in order to effectively do the job of a CEO, especially when it comes to something that deals with human life, you have to be nearly sociopathic in nature. And so then your personal well-being is still like enough of a hierarchy in your mind that you don't think about things in the way that it would almost make sense to think about them, if that makes sense.
It does.
So for me, like a good example, I know a lot of dudes who used to be a bouncer. And all those dudes that used to be a bouncer, the same thing happened. Somebody finally pulled a gun on them, and they were like, you know what? I don't need this job, right? But it was a thing of like, oh, I'm gonna do something different because I don't like what's happening right now. So them taking down all their info and not just being like, you know what, everybody gets free anesthesia for the next 6 months. Like they didn't try to like buy some goodwill.
No.
They didn't try to like change anything about the practices. And I think that speaks to like a deeper issue in the psyche. They don't think like us because they don't have to, if that makes sense.
Also, I feel like, I don't know, maybe because I'm a foreigner here, violence seems so ambient in America. Like, there's always shootings, right?
Yeah.
And for the first time, I think for like regular people, it finally happened to a person that is normally like immune to that type of violence. Like, how often do you hear about kids getting shot in school all the time, like to the point we've kind of been desensitized to school shootings. How many times do you hear about a CEO getting shot? And to a lot of people, CEOs are the enemy. So it was like, now's the time to get the jokes off, honestly. Because like these are people that don't ever experience violence in the way that
you know what I think it also was? It's also the fact that it felt like it was targeted in a clean and specific way. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like every time we read a story in the news about a shooter, a public event, they might leave a manifesto, but it feels like such an attack on everybody that the people, everyone in the community, even whether or not you're directly in that community or not, you feel terrorized by the act.
Yeah.
This guy was so precise and so clean with it. And again, just in case you're listening, I do not approve any of these things. I'm just pointing out how it was perceived by myself and many other people. It was so clean and precise that nobody else felt like it could have happened to them, and nobody else felt like it was meant to happen to them. It's almost like, this was between you and him, man.
Yeah, it felt like you should only be scared if you're the CEO of a health company.
That's what I mean.
Everyone else, it was like, it's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Whereas when you read all these other stories where they'll say, oh, this person had an issue, they were bullied at school. You're like, yeah, but they shot all the kids.
Yeah.
They didn't just shoot the kid who was the main bully. Mm-hmm. They shot all the kids.
Yeah.
And this guy, or whoever actually did it, this person went, shot the person. And then, do you see in the video, there's the lady drinking her coffee? Or she's drinking something in the video. And the shooting happens, and then she just like runs off. She's also like, oh, this has nothing to do with me. She doesn't, you know what I mean? She doesn't put her hands up. She doesn't start screaming. She just like goes like, well, clearly these two people have some sort of disagreement, and it is not about me. I'm going to move.
I thought it was like a lover, where my mind goes.
What?
Like, I thought it was like a jilted lover, and he was coming back to get his revenge.
You thought a CEO of a healthcare company getting shot was about... What books are you reading?
You don't want to know.
No. A lot of people thought that. A lot of people were like...
You don't want to know.
Yeah. A lot of people were like, oh, him and his wife have been separated. He probably cheated. She went ahead and like... And so I think that the difference with this one as well is that there's nothing that reminds you of like the circles and the class affairs like healthcare does, and access to it. Because even with tech, because remember when that tech CEO got stabbed in San Francisco, nobody was like, oh, they're after us as CEOs. Because like startups and all that stuff is like still in the culture as like a way to lift yourself up. And we don't see tech and tech bros in that, even though we make fun of them, we don't see them as the enemy as much, right? Whereas healthcare, if you've ever had somebody sick in your
Yes.
life, if you've ever been sick and you were like, I followed all the rules, I gave you money every month
Yeah.
for 7 years, and now you're playing me because you can, because you're in that like higher echelon of this like unspoken caste system, then yeah, like you now are a representative of the most evil thing.
Also,
you know?
the thing with healthcare is that like it doesn't matter how much money you have a complaint about the American healthcare system.
Yes.
Because I speak to my super wealthy friends and their doctors no longer take insurance because the doctors are being screwed by the insurance payments. So they're like, yeah, if I want to give birth, I pay $20,000. That's ridiculous. I shouldn't. You know, like I have health insurance. But so like whether you're the poorest of the poor or the super wealthy, you feel screwed by this system. So you're like, all right.
And look, I know we're going back and forth. Everyone colloquially would say health insurance company, healthcare. But it's important to remember that this company didn't provide health care. Okay? This is just an insurance company for people's health. So what you do is you pay them to ensure that you have care when something goes wrong. And yeah, it turns out a lot of the time, I think it's like 30% or somewhere up there. They're one of the highest in the country. They do not give you that insurance. But it is rare that an issue affects as many people across different race, gender, class lines as the healthcare industry in America. You know what I mean? And actually, I want to do this. I know there's a bunch of manifestos that have come up, but apparently this is like the most recent / most confirmed one by the most news agencies. Again, if it's not the one, it's not. But they're all similar. But this one is like apparently.
The one they said he did.
Yeah, this is apparently. It says, to the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial, some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the US has the number 1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly 42 in life expectancy. United is the, and there's an indecipherable thing, largest company in the US by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but as our life expectancy? ? No, the reality is these indecipherables have simply gotten too powerful and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space. And frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. That's a pretty gangster line, by the way. I like how...
He has humility.
He really does. Like, this guy's like going to go like take out a CEO and he's like, look, hey, man, I also admit I don't know everything, but I'm going to act on what I know. # humble.
Yeah.
I will say that's powerful for all of us to follow in life, the humility. And then the last part is he says, but many have illuminated the corruption and greed, e.g. Rosenthal Moore, decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It's not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I'm the first to face it with such brutal honesty.
I'll pitch you this. Reading that from him was a reminder that when you read a history book, like Che Guevara and them really were just making it up as they went. Jimmy, when you look at like any sort of movement or any sort of revolutionary something, because they're gone and because they're like an idea, we think of them as people who had the whole plan from the beginning. And this to me is the most perfect example of why, like, for everyone's sake, for the people with and for the haves and have-nots, for everyone's sake, our institutions genuinely need to start working the way they're supposed to work. Like, no more free passes for politicians, no more free passes for anyone, because this person has basically said in no uncertain terms, right? Y'all, I'm only a little bit crazy. Like, I'm literally just crazy enough to do this, but I'm not insane. Like, either this is going to happen or you're going to take care of the issue. Because we act as if we like, you see Josh Shapiro and them get up there and scold the American public, this person's not a hero. And it's like, all right, that's all well and good. And I actually, I agree with your sentiment. But you, of all people, should be working as hard as you can to save those CEO lives by passing laws that rein them in. You cannot tell people, listen, this is the way it's going to be, and you're going to have to like it. And those people have guns in America.
I also think this is what I mean by who is allowed to kill. So we forget that laws were made by people. Mm-hmm. And laws were made by people for people. We forget this, right? Oftentimes people think about laws as if these were things that were passed down from the heavens. But laws were actually created by people for people, okay? One of those laws in most countries in the world is that your fate and how guilty you are is decided by people. So in America, you have a jury system, but in other places, they go to a judge. Mm-hmm. A person will say, yeah, you should go to jail for what you did, and I'm basing this on the law that was created by the people. What I think a lot of people don't realize in this, by the way, is in a strange way, if the majority, like the vast majority of the country, is for this guy, in the strangest way, like in a warped way, you then sort of have to question the whole system to go, oh, wait, is the system the thing that is right as it stands? Yeah. Or is this expression of what this guy did exposing that the system is wrong and it's not with the people? Does this make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
No, it makes sense.
Like if all the people are against the system, then who is the system for?
You know, it's like, you know that saying that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter?
Yes.
I think to like people who are like very pro law enforcement, they're like, you know, you can't just have people going around shooting someone because they don't like the way they're doing their job,
right.
Which is like to me very reasonable. And then you go on Twitter and like, because you know in the bullet casings, I don't know, I don't speak.
Oh yeah, they wrote
said,
like
deny,
yes, depose, and delay. Yeah,
and that became a hashtag on TikTok and Twitter, and people are telling these horrific stories about their experience with the American healthcare system and watching their loved one die. Yeah. And they're like, this guy did something that I would have loved to do, but I was on the phone to customer service for hours.
Crying because my family,
because of claims. And people talking about, you know, when you max out $500,000 for intensive care with your baby, you have to pay out whatever comes after that. So like, you know, people see him as a freedom fighter. And then other people are like, well, if we allow this to happen, it's like America's eventual decay.
Yes, but I think the people who are saying that, first of all, you must look at who they are.
Yeah.
You know? Again, it's such a hard conversation to have because like everyone will try and paint you as if you are pro just killing a person, which I'm not. You know those natural experiments that you never expect in the world but then are forced to live through? They happen to you and they force you to think about what's happening in society, right? If I think of the Sackler family, right? The Sackler family is responsible for killing millions of people in America or whatever number, right? Hundreds of thousands at least. They are partly responsible for doing this in many ways actively, right? They're not in jail. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be, you know, put on trial in that, all of this stuff, all of this. They're not going to be treated the way he was. And so in a strange way, to your point, I go, corporations and giant groups of powerful people is the domain of the powerful. Like this is the land of the kings, right? They get to do a thing to a group of people. And we don't call that, quote unquote, murder or an assassination. Mm-hmm. They just go like, no, they were irresponsible and they put profits over people's health and safety. And but I'm like, okay, but then what happened to the people that they did it to? Well, many people died. So they weren't killed. They just happened to die, right? And so in a weird way, if this guy had started a company somehow, made it about healthcare, created a drug that this guy needed, gave him too much of the drug or too little of the drug, and then this guy died, then Luigi wouldn't be going to jail.
Absolutely not.
It's just about like how instantly he did it and how much he did out of the system that he gets treated differently. And again, I'm going to say it 1,000 times because you know how the world is. I'm not for what he did, but it just throws up like an interesting, do you know what I mean, Josh? Like it throws up an interesting conundrum.
Also,
because the same people who are pro the system apply it differently depending on who is doing the killing.
They turn a blind eye to like corporate greed. And I would call it, some people call it corporate manslaughter. I call it like corporate freaking murder, right?
Yeah, I think that also if you are able to spread as much of the culpability as possible, we have a hard time imagining 1,000 people in a company being liable for one murder. if that makes sense.
Yeah, completely.
So that also takes away some of it, even in the person's mind who does it. Because I think the thing that I won't say no one wants to say, because I'm not acting like I'm some complete outlier in my rhetoric over it. But I think the thing I have not heard anyone say is that this man, Luigi, committed murder, but he did not commit the murder of an innocent man. And I think that's where everyone's struggling.
I think that is where a lot of people are struggling.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like, I understand what the Josh Shapiros and even what the news to a certain degree is doing, where they're like, no, we can't just have murder, blah, blah, blah. And I get that. But he killed a killer. So, like, when it's on Dexter, we love it.
Yeah,
that's true.
So how are we now so shocked that people mostly, and people who have been killed, by the way, because that's the other thing that I think a lot of, I won't put it on all of like white America or anything, because they obviously have their own factions and their own sections and stuff like that. But that's what a lot of people don't even understand about like gang culture, is that it's like someone eventually gets got. You stay in the street long enough, you get your people, and then you get got. And then there are people that were never going to come for you, but they're waiting for the day that you get got because you killed their cousin.
Yeah,
and so
you were responsible
they don't
for the
necessarily.
drive-by, you were responsible for the shooting at the corner, and they weren't involved in gang anything, but they are happy the day you get. That's a great analogy, actually. Yes.
Yeah. And so I think that's what a lot of the, I guess you could say, upper echelon or the well-off parts of America do not understand, because they are so used to having like swift and definitive justice for themselves that they cannot put themselves in the shoes of someone who did something to you, and that's just how it is, and that's just what happens. And so then I move on, and you have to live with it.
We're going to continue this conversation right after this short break.
Josh, I was wondering something, because I think on here we speak a lot about young men being radicalized. That was my thing. That was my Trump assassination take. I was like, these white boys are going crazy, guys. We need to get them jobs. Like,
but this guy had all the jobs.
And
all the money.
There are some people saying on like the more right-wing media that this is a clear case of left-wing indoctrination. You send your kid to these prep schools, then they go to the Ivies, they come across these crazy ideas, and then look what we have here. We have someone that, a boy that had his whole future ahead of him decided to shoot a CEO. And that's some of the rhetoric we're seeing out there. Do you feel he fits under the young man radicalization, whether it's to the left or the right? Because we're seeing this happen on both sides of the spectrum. Like there was a kid that set himself on fire for Palestine last year, if you remember. And so it's just like, do you think he fits that category, or he's just like something else entirely?
Yeah, personally, I don't, because I don't see any of the. I think the blinders that we have as Americans are like almost like when you go into the 3D theater and they give you the glasses and one side is red and one side is blue, and it's about to shape how you see everything. So you're going to see this 3D world because you have the red on and the blue on together. And I think that if you go to one of those 3D movies without the glasses on and you're just like, this is bad. This doesn't make any sense. That is who I think he is. I don't think there was a Republican or a Democratic agenda, because if you pay attention to Republicans and Democrats, they're both for the health insurance companies. And there's nothing to me that screams politics with it as far as the online radicalization, because there are people, so even people who are pro-cop are like, hey, sometimes dudes got to get got. Do you know what I mean? And so I don't think he got radicalized in a normal workout Jordan Peterson pipeline, if that makes sense.
Do you want to? Well, my take is because
that sounded like my favorite
workout Jordan because he is very.
Peterson
I mean, we haven't spoken about his appearance.
No, I just think that's a funny workout Jordan Peterson.
He's very
pipeline.
ripped. He's very ripped, very handsome. I won't dwell on that too much, but that is informing why some people are treating him this way. But I think they spoke about him having these. I
actually argue before you move on.
Yeah,
I actually think it's the other way around. I think, sort of in the same world that Josh is in, I think we might be looking at a lot of this backward, right? We're going, because he's hot people are treating him differently. Because he's good looking, people are treating, because he's white, people are treating, because he's this, I think it's literally the other way around. I think because he went after somebody who represented something that everyone considers a deep enemy, and I mean a deep enemy because they, in the most extreme cases, they've lost family members because of this.
Yeah.
Or they themselves are in like chronic pain and cannot get help because of this system.
And this is a company that denies 1 in 5 claims.
I think because of that, people are able to see things. So like yes, obviously, there were people who would always think he's good looking because he's good looking, maybe. But I think more people can see his good lookingness because he did a thing that they approve
Trevor,
of.
I'm telling you, as a woman, he is stadiums above the average man.
No, Christiana, I'm not
beautiful man.
You said you don't want to dwell, but I feel like you want to dwell on his looks.
Like, no, when you saw the first image where the mask was down,
yes.
I was like, you cannot send this man to prison. He needs to be like in a Calvin Klein ad. And then you're seeing more pictures, like even like the mug shot he's serving.
Yes.
Trevor, that is shaping how women feel and gay men feel about this. I'm just going to speak on our behalf.
I'm not taking that away. What I'm saying is this, to Josh's point. Like, if somebody, the enemy of my enemy in a way, right? There are people, as you say, Josh, who are pro-law enforcement, who are like, yeah, but in this instance, I'm with him. There are people who are anti-gun, who are like, yeah, but in this instance, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But because this guy has done something that most people would argue is almost like morally correct.
They understand it.
Which is weird, by the way, because it's morally accepted or morally correct. They then are able to put aside the thing that butts heads with what they normally agree or disagree with in this instance.
Yes,
you know what
exactly.
I mean?
That's why I don't think his radicalization was like of the norm, because he somehow by just this is I'll pitch you this, and now please don't put me on a list. Because this is going to make me sound radicalized. But like, I cannot get over what I was saying before off of what he wrote. I don't think he's someone that was radicalized. I think he was someone who, like, in H.G. Wells' Time Machine, the perspective of the author is someone who's not of that time in the future, where people are just like kind of willy-nilly and like they're willing to let someone drown and not do anything or whatever. He's like the only one that's like, hey, everybody, something has to be done. I'm saying that, like, from what he wrote, if you take him at his word, he's like, the first domino had to drop, and it just was me because it just was. And that's actually someone who, the thing that they do may be crazy, but that's not a crazy thing to think, right? Yes. If you've ever been out with your friends and you're the only sober one and everybody's drunk, it's one of the hardest things to do is move a party of drunk people out of somewhere. And so now you're the one that's like kind of being the jerk in a way, that's yelling okay, we gotta go way. And I think that is more what he thinks he did than any form of like, he himself said, he's like, I'm not even the most qualified to have this discussion. Yeah. I'm just telling you, you're not invincible. The way you treat people matters. Like, whatever people are going to insert into this and maybe put in the zeitgeist is like, that was his intention. And that doesn't feel as crazy to me as like someone who is like Unabomber, right? Because this dude managed to Venn diagram Kyle Rittenhouse and SEAL Team 6.
Everyone.
This dude managed to get the people who are super, super left, the people who are super, super right, and like even the cops. You could see the cops weren't looking hard. The cops got family in hospital.
Oh man, that's true. Actually,
that's why they were brushing those leaves. He ain't over here.
I cut you off the way, so you were going down a rabbit hole.
What I was going to say, I think the back thing. That's something I've been thinking about since yesterday. The fact that he lives with chronic pain and had this surgery that made it worse. So, like, he's technically in a way disabled or has this disabling event. Any type of chronic issue, especially in American healthcare system, can make you crazy. And I'm not saying what he did was in the moment of craziness, but being in constant pain and the people that are supposed to take care of you will take you to a place where most people just like, I'm just going to stuff myself with opiates.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And he's like, we have to do something about it.
But you see, to Josh's point, though, and I think this is where Josh, this is where I think you and I are literally on the exact same side of seeing this, is the word crazy here is for me the key. Because I agree with you. Somebody in chronic pain can do something crazy.
Yeah.
But oftentimes those people, the crazy goes everywhere. Whether it's a guy in Japan who goes to a preschool and stabs a bunch of kids, whether it's like somebody in Australia who walks into a crowd and shoots and then they'll all leave some sort of manifesto and they go like, the world is this, or my company did this. And people are like, wait, you stabbed preschoolers because your company fired? Wait, what is happening? And then here, to what Josh is saying, and I think what a lot of people are feeling is, the guy's like, yes, I'm chronically in pain, but I'm not going to shoot a nurse. I'm not going to shoot a doctor. I'm not going to shoot an ambulance driver. I'm not going to shoot anyone who works in a hospital. I'm not going to shoot my doctor. I'm not going to, no. I am going to go to the person who I think has the most impact on this system. And I'm basically going to take like an assassin's Reaganomics approach and say this thing will trickle down. And that to me seems like the opposite of crazy. Again,
no, I don't
not
think he's
for or
crazy.
against.
I think he's got, but me, Trevor, I think everybody's got a little bit of crazy in them.
But then to me, I go, that's like...
To live in this simulation, you cannot be sane, right? But I think it was a very lucid thing, like, because what was
guys? Do you know how? Have you ever engraved a bullet case? This is a very. Have you ever held?
Make it like a
have you ever held a
3D gun?
bullet? Have you ever held a bullet?
No.
Let me tell you something. Bullets are tiny, especially in that type of gun, right? Engraving that thing takes a lot of dexterity.
I mean, he's got an
and
engineering
precision.
degree from Penn.
But my point is, this is not a like, man, I'm gonna do something about it and then go outside. No, you're sitting there, you've got your bullet.
Yeah.
You're like working away. You think you can't make any spelling errors, right? Because that's not gonna get delay. Doesn't get the same effect when people find the stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think he whistled while he made them?
I'm just saying most people who are working, creating things, especially tiny things, whether it's trains or planes, will generally, they'll work on it. And I think, I don't know. Look, again, and I'm going to throw this disclaimer in one more time. We do not know everything. This is sweeping judgments from everything we do know, or what we think we know right now. Could all be wrong. Might be wrong. Let's work on what we have. We look at even the books and stuff that he was reading, and then the reviews that he apparently left on some of them.
By the way, he also followed Trevor on Twitter, so he's a man of taste. We must say that.
Can I give him props? He followed a broad range of people: AOC, Joe Rogan, me, Steve-O. This is like a broad...
I think he followed Elon on Twitter as well.
Yeah, it's a broad range of people.
Yeah.
And if anything, he made me think, should I not be broadening my...
Well, you're safe if he gets off non-guilty.
No. I think of it more like this. I thought to myself, if this young man could... Because someone said to me, they're like, why would he follow you and Joe Rogan? And I was like, actually, you know what? If this young man could see any similarities in something between me and Joe Rogan, then maybe I could do a better job of that as well. That's what I thought to myself. And so I think when I look at this person, I will say this, good luck to them finding a jury that is going to find him guilty, or even a jury who won't pull that, that law. It's like what is it called? It's like there's this weird law in America with jury nullification, I think it's called, or something, where jury can be like, yeah, the person did it, but you know what, man? It's all right.
The jury is going to be tainted just because who hasn't had a terrible experience with healthcare companies in this country?
But this is exactly my point. This is exactly my point.
I'll pitch you this. All that dude got to do is roll up in there and be like, y'all, I am so sorry. I've been crazy. And I was on the phone with UnitedHealthcare and nobody would take my call. And so I was trying not to do this for 6 months. Because remember, y'all, I went missing. Remember when I went missing? And so then I was on the phone with them that whole time I was missing. And then they didn't pick up. So I was like, let me go see him.
Damn. Everything you're saying.
Also, if you want to talk about safe CEOs, I know that the CEO of Starbucks must have sighed a breath of relief. That man hit a Starbucks right before he did it. And then CEO of McDonald's, too. McDonald's probably like, whoo, thank goodness. Whoo. All right. Oh, boy. Okay.
There's an interesting... I'm not sure if it was a study or if it was just a piece of work that was done on how collective groups can shift individual morals. And it literally spoke to this idea of everything that people will do as part of a company, they would never do as a person.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think what this kid allegedly did is he sort of poked a hole in the idea that a corporation isn't people. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because like we often act like corporations are not people. We go like, well, the company, the company. And then it's like the company, and you cannot send a company to jail. That's literally the law. So they go like, you can't. What are you going to do about it? And so the company's fined and the company. And then he came along and he was like, oh, no. Guys, it's not the company. You know? In the same way when you go on a safari, they say the reason animals don't jump in and eat you is because the lions see you as one unit with the vehicle. So they don't see people inside the car. They go, this thing rumbles past us and it doesn't eat us and it doesn't fight with us, so we don't care about it and it's not our prey, whatever. And they leave it alone. And in a weird way, it feels like what he did here for many people was he went, yes, I know that this behemoth is unstoppable. It is unsuable. It is unbeatable. It is unquestioned. It's everything. But you know what it has? People who run it. And by piercing that veil, I think a lot of the people who run it now go like, ugh.
Think twice.
Yeah, because let me put it this way. The fact that this is what I also realized from this whole incident is like companies don't give a shit. They truly don't. Now, there are companies who are selling benign products, and it's like, all right, whatever. This is a drink you like, you know, a vacation or what. Yeah, I don't hate companies, right? But there's an element of like companies, they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And you see the levels of don't give a shit even in the story. This guy gets shot, the CEO. He was going for an investor meeting. You know, they still held a meeting.
Yeah, like some gangsters. They still had that meeting.
They-
The mob doesn't do that. The mob, if somebody, in no Godfather movie did somebody get pop and they were like, so you were saying? That's never happened in a mob
Guys,
movie.
they
They
held
didn't care. Yeah, they were
the
like,
meeting.
R.I.P. Moment of silence.
Yo, did they
I
react?
think the meeting going ahead is the most chilling thing.
And then
to
how
me.
did all these healthcare companies react? They pulled down their leadership from every website.
Yeah.
But here's my thing. If they believe that this thing was so dangerous that they need to pull down their faces, why would they not like get protection for everyone? Why would they? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's such a like nefarious, it's all about us. It's the top and it's the CEOs. I'm like, you guys, you can't even act like good guys in this moment. You can't even come out and go, man, you know, we don't like what happened, but we need to have conversations about what the healthcare industry, how we're perceived. Because if one of us is shot and everyone is happy, maybe it's time for us to look inward and be like, damn, maybe there's something we are doing or aren't doing. And I go back to, by the way, the Trump assassination thing. I said this, people disagreed with me, whatever. But I said like afterwards, you look at those few weeks after Trump was shot at, he was a little calmer. He was just a little bit like, hey man, you know, come on guys. Like, hey man. And I think there's like a humanness that companies just don't encourage in people. And this got exposed by it, even for like, if you work for this company, why would you even like, why would you help them make themselves worse when they've shown you that if the worst that they do comes back on you, they don't give a shit about you?
Well, if you lose your job, you lose your health insurance.
The grand irony, right?
Yeah, it's probably
the grand,
right.
yeah, the grand irony. Don't go anywhere, because we got more What Now after this.
This is once again going to make me sound like I've been radicalized or something, and I genuinely have not, right? Disclaimer. But another thing that I think was on people's minds and was a thing to root for with this guy is we are in the year of what feels like open murders by corporations. That Boeing guy, that second Boeing guy, the whistleblower deaths that have been happening in American companies are like so undertone scary that I think people were like, yeah, that like you cannot separate that in my mind.
It really felt like David and Goliath.
Yeah.
Yes, because like when you look at Boeing, all that dude said was what we already knew, by the way. The dude that got like mysteriously murdered in the parking lot of his hotel room right before he was supposed to testify in court, all that stuff. That dude, all he did was he had worked at Boeing for like, I think 19 years or something like that. But he was like, the plane door gonna fly off. We already saw the plane door fly off. So he didn't even have any secrets. He was just about to say it in court. And he mysteriously dies. A dude who no one actually knows where that dude is. I think that that's a big part of it.
You think it'll change anything?
I think if there's copycats, I think it could.
Huh.
I think if there's
interesting.
copycats. And I do think there's a high chance there could be, because there's a lot of people out there that feel they have nothing to lose, you know?
So you think the one, no?
No, I don't think one's enough, because I don't think that health insurance companies are scared enough, and there's like trillions on the line. Like, it's a lot of money, right? And they can hire security and do all of these things.
Yeah.
But if it becomes a thing of like, you know how Robin Hood would like steal from the rich and give to the poor, and it's like there's people out there who are disgruntled and they shoot people high up at health insurance companies, it completely change how they operate. But I don't think one's enough. Not that I'm trying to say people should do more. Please. I don't want that
disclaimer.
I don't want that smoke. But I just don't think one's enough. But I think if there's copycats, it's game over.
Yeah, I also think more would be bad because a lot of people don't have aim.
Yeah. That's why people thought he was a professional assassin.
No, but he got up really close.
I mean,
people forget that. He got up really, really close.
Yeah, you like there are people who say the whole sniping from far away thing is like a thing in the movies.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
like
No,
not gonna,
this is
not
more
gonna work.
real, like up close. That's, this is what's happening in like developing countries all around the world. People who are like running to clean up government. You don't get got from far.
Oh my God.
For the most part, yeah, just someone comes up. Even think of like
But MLK,
actual...
wasn't it like a balcony?
No, I think they're a lot closer.
He was on a balcony, right?
I think they're a lot closer than you think, is what's always the case.
I think he got caught because, MLK was on a balcony, but he shot him. I think in the picture they're pointing at.
Yes, they are.
Where the shot
they're
came
like, there
from.
he is.
Yeah.
It's one of those. It's one of those things.
Maybe I've watched too many movies. I always thought it was just like that sniper thing and people are super far.
Yeah, can I say, talking about movies, I don't disclaimer. I don't disclose. I don't condone anything. Blah blah blah. I was disappointed at how he got caught.
In a McDonald's.
No.
Like what I mean is like, it seemed so like, like it was just like, wow.
Well, that's
okay.
why black people don't believe it's him. You know that, right?
No, I know the
There's a big
conspiracies.
conspiracy.
Yeah.
Because it was just like the guy seemed to do everything like really well, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh,
So do you want to know
found
my
with
theory?
a bag with everything in it at a McDonald's,
I
just
think
chilling.
he didn't mind getting caught. He did what he wanted to do. He wanted to kill the CEO. And everything after that was a bonus. I think he probably thought he'd be caught sooner.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because he had the weapon on it, allegedly, because some people say they planted stuff, but he had a weapon on him. He had a manifesto on him. Like, he's telling the cops how he did it in his note. I feel like he was just like, I'm going to kill that guy. That's what I want to do. And we'll see what happens next. I don't think he was like on the run and trying to like go into the shadows. But maybe, Josh, you disagree.
I only slightly disagree.
Okay.
First I thought exactly what Christiana thought. So when I heard that they even had a suspect or that like he took his mask down or something, I was like, all right, this person's either like really dumb or they don't mind getting caught. But I personally, this is just me, I think he was on the way to do it again.
Oh.
I think where they caught him, what they caught him with, it screams someone who's not done to me. Like that, like I think he was.
I can take that.
I think he was in. I'm surprised the news hasn't like said that, or no one that I saw on the news has theorized that. Because to me, to have everything with you, like crackheads don't do that. like to have everything on you from the crime you committed days ago. By the way, this stuff is heavy after a while. You're not going to lighten your load, throw it in a trash can 2 states away or something. So, I mean, my thing is, if this kid is trying to get away, his family owns 2 country clubs, right? When you fly private, they don't check you for weapons. They don't check. So all he has to do is fly private to the other side of the country and then take a bus into Mexico. He already had the head start of Central Park, which I don't think people realize how much he was not going to get caught.
Also, the Central Park of it. This is the one thing that's confused me.
Mm-hmm.
The police said that he went into Central Park and then appeared on the other side without the backpack. That's what they said. That was the original statement, right?
So
I don't know if you know anything about this.
The theory that I've seen, right, is that a lot of what people are saying, because the police, and I don't just mean NYPD, I mean any police department, is never going to go out of their way, even if it means telling the truth, to make themselves look incompetent, stupid, corrupt, whatever.
Yeah.
And so there were some people that were saying this thing, like the thing that you just read, was when they were looking at a different person and they were wrong. And now this,
that would make sense.
Do you know what I mean? So they were wrong about that thing, which I think is why they haven't said it again. And now that he's got the backpack, they were like, yeah, he had the backpack the whole time.
By the way, can I just say one of the funniest moments? I think it was Eric Adams who came out and he was like, we solved this case using good old-fashioned police work. It's like, no, someone snitched.
Yeah.
It's just another example of like where it's like,
this showed me how incompetent the police were.
There's nothing.
Because like even now I'm like, you guys got outsmarted by a kid and
literally
he only
nothing.
got caught because someone in McDonald's was like, oh, he's a weirdo.
Yeah. Someone snitched and that was it. Like that was literally it.
The fact that they are not giving that worker the money.
Josh is trying to radicalize this worker. I'm just going to put it out there, Josh.
The worker should have been radicalized working in McDonald's because I'm sure they don't have health insurance. And I'm just like shocked. The lack of class solidarity shocks me.
I'm just saying, like, you robbed me of $60K. I'm not saying I would. I'm just saying people have done it for less.
You're not saying you would.
I just think it's wild.
But you might buy a backpack.
Yeah, but maybe we're underestimating how much like regular Americans do hate crime. Because if it's like just a regular person working in McDonald's who's like, hey, police, I think I found him, then maybe there could be a jury in New York. Like if they get people from parts of Queens and Staten Island who'd be like, guilty.
I hear you, but I think Josh's theory is the best I've heard, and it's that because you don't know what you're dealing with. Because think again, let's look at America through a larger lens. Any shooter that people talk about is shooting everyone. Mm-hmm. So we have had very few, if any, instances of a targeted single shooter that doesn't endanger another person type thing. Even the person, people always forget, at Trump's assassination, somebody else died. Like no one talks about that, right?
Yeah.
It's not like the bullet didn't kill another human being. People are just like, whew, thank God nothing happened. I'm like, no. There's a man who lost his life. He was just standing at the rally. So you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's very rare that anyone who's shooting doesn't involve other people who they either didn't want to or didn't care to involve. Same with gang violence. How many times are little kids shot in the midst of gang? And then the gangsters will be like, we didn't want to do it. And community is like, we don't care. Mm-hmm. You did it. So I can see somebody seeing that guy in the McDonald's and like, man. That's why Josh's theory is completely, I can see, because you don't know what's about to happen. But I think when it comes to jury time,
it'll be different.
It's going to be a very different story because now people are like, ooh, if his lawyer is in any way, shape or form allowed to bring up anything that UnitedHealthcare does, I think it'll be tough for a jury to give this kid everything.
I mean, he's a rich kid, so he's not going to have a public defender.
Yeah.
His family's
This is going to be an interesting case.
His family's going to hire the best possible, as any parent should.
This is going to be the biggest case ever. Christiana's going to be at the courthouse, by the way, with a giant sign that says, take it off.
I do think one last thing about the McDonald's worker that turned that dude in. This is probably way off base, but I think in their mind, they're like, okay, people miss all the time. And Trump did just work at McDonald's for 15 minutes somewhere else. What if that man, what if this dude knows something I don't know? I want to catch anything in the crosshairs at the fryer station.
Do you know what? I'm curious about the McDonald's employee. I would love to hear from them.
I think everybody
that's the real third act in this story.
Oh, you think that's the real third act?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I'm just, because they're a polarizing person.
I feel like that's the epilogue.
Yeah, people say if it was Popeyes, they would have been like, giving him more chicken and sent him on his way.
I think, one of the great, irony might be the wrong word about this, but I was thinking to myself, it's so amazing how almost unanimous. All the CEOs of these companies, literally, they pulled down their photos. They sent. Did you see the emails they sent to employees?
No, I didn't.
Healthcare companies have been sending not manifests. What do we call them? Like pledges to their employees to sign, and the pledge is like, I stand with my fellow healthcare community,
gosh.
and I believe that no violence should ever be committed against them. I pledge my allegiance to the healthcare company that I work for. Insert name here. Like literally, that's what they're going with. And then like none of them went to work, and it was a whole thing. And I was like, it's funny how now CEOs are like, yeah, work from home. Yeah, they're like, yeah, they were fully like, no, everyone's got to be back in the office. And then very quickly they're like, no. Sometimes you got to work from home, man. Sometimes things happen in your life, and you just got to chill. Josh, I have a question for you that's a little controversial. If you were on the jury, what are you? What's your verdict?
That's a good question.
Oh, okay. Do we know what he's been charged with besides murder?
No, let's just say he's charged with murder. That's all I know.
Oh, okay. Here's my thing.
I'm loving this already.
Yeah. I would find him.
Yes.
I would probably end up finding him not guilty by reason of insanity.
Oh, okay. Christiana?
So
she's gonna find him hot guilty.
No.
Oh, he did it.
My husband was like yesterday, he was like, you're talking about this guy. Do you think he's better looking than me? I was like, absolutely not, babe. What are you talking about? That's what Louis said to me. I was like, but he doesn't have a beard. I wonder how he'd look with a beard. But back to the matter at hand. Can jury make sentencing recommendations?
Yes.
Remember, I'm an abolitionist.
I think they can in certain cases, depending
on
where
and how. So I would find him guilty.
Yes.
But I'd give him probation.
Oh,
I'd give him probation.
Damn, that came out of nowhere.
Ooh. I would give him 5 years probation.
Because you would argue that he's not a risk?
Because I actually don't think prison doesn't work. All the research shows prison doesn't work. And I don't feel like he's a danger to other people. Like I believe in
which other people?
People like myself. Listen,
oh my goodness. Okay.
He was reading books by Black authors. Go through his Goodreads.
Okay.
He's okay with my. I would no, but I say this about like. Murder's a horrible thing. Like I experienced it in my family earlier this year. And it's been the first time I actually really had to think about like being an abolitionist and how I feel. So when it came to my family, everyone feels differently about it. Like some people are like they need to spend forever in prison. I do think if prison does what it's supposed to do for people, you should go there and be restored and hopefully be left back into society. So that's why I would find him guilty, because he did take a life, right? He did commit that murder. Maybe serve some time and then the rest probation. Because honestly, to the kids of the man, he's not the CEO of a health insurance company. He's your dad.
Yes.
And they have to live without their dad.
This is true.
And so it's just like, I think there should be something in place, because we have to have some value for life. Even lives I despise. I'm like, your life has value, right?
Yes.
So I'm like, I'd find him guilty, maybe serve some time, but I don't think he should spend his rest of his life in prison, which I think for a lot of murderers shouldn't spend the rest of their lives in prison.
Damn, okay.
But, a long time, like 20 years, 30 years.
Wow, that's your life.
No, it's not.
That's your life.
He is like a hot 22.
That's your life.
He's going to come out of me in his 40s.
I'm just going to put it out
George
there.
Clooney era by the
That's
time
your
he
life.
comes out. No, I'm just saying.
Norway and Sweden don't even do a life sentence as 20.
I can't say the sentence because I don't, I can't say the sentence. I think he should, because also he should like kind of sit down and think about what he wants to do next.
I think he did when he was carving the bullets.
But and then probation and not like punitive probation with a view of like, you can now contribute something to society.
And people would argue he already did.
He did, but like in the positive way. Not like
people would argue he already
not
did.
addition by subtraction, but like some addition. You know what I mean? Like, but that's my view on like people who kill.
Okay.
And also I feel like if he was a black guy, we'd probably be having a different conversation right now. So,
Okay.
Trevor, I'm so sorry.
That's my view on it.
Do you mind, based off of Christiana's brilliant answer, I think I need to change my answer.
Whoa, what are you talking about?
Yeah. I would probably find him guilty, and I would sentence him to be the CEO of a healthcare company. Not so easy when you got to do it, bruh.
What about you, Trevor?
So if the back pain thing is real, and if some of the stories are true, and if his lawyer very creatively argued self-defense, I would have a difficult time sending him to prison. Because I think one of the hardest things we grapple with in society is, again, I come back to how we started. I myself wish to live by the rules and the laws that everyone else does, but I do believe we live in a society where that isn't true. And I believe the more power you amass, the more pain you can inflict on other people. And you're not held to the same laws and the same punishments as everybody else. And so it is difficult because we ourselves are in the thing that we are trying to, in many ways, reshape and dismantle. So it's like, it's confusing because you're in it, right? But if somebody is unable or if their life is being threatened by this nebulous entity and they're like, this is the only way I can protect myself and others, I would struggle to find them guilty based on the evidence. And a lot of that evidence for me would be based on like, this company, have we shown that they actively try to not pay for people's health care? How many people have died because of their practices? Are they actively doing this? For instance, like they had that AI software a while ago where they had AI that was basically approving or denying claims. And the numbers I say might be off, but I think I remember them correctly. This thing was denying like 90% of the claims that were coming through.
Crazy.
And then they found that it was making a mistake, and they kept it. They kept it because they were just like, "Whoa, we're just printing money here." And that's just one example of like what this company has been accused of or found guilty of. Or do you know what I mean? $400 billion in profit and whatever, or revenue. It's like they've been crushing it. So I do not wish for the death of anyone, but I'm like you. The thing has happened now, right? But it's a difficult one for me to wrestle with because I do think we live in a world where some people with the right tools and everything can take anyone out. And if they are blanketed by enough corporations and ideas, then they are seen as
Maybe I just see it from his family side, like his parents, his siblings, and his children.
Completely.
And his life had some value to them beyond.
Completely.
Because like for me, kids, your parents aren't their jobs. Like even Saddam Hussein's kids,
completely.
Like, I love my dad. Osama, like these like very horrific people.
Yes.
And if we believe like all life has inherent value.
Yes, but I'm arguing that the value of his life is now not going to be, because remember, I'm also an abolitionist. Remember, for me, it's based on this. Does he have a direct connection with this company? And were they doing something to him directly? Yeah. That for me has a big effect on it, because I then go, it is difficult for me to then go, because someone will be like, yes, but if you have a problem with the company, take them to court. Good luck. Go try that. You get what I'm saying?
I'm trying to figure out the ways we hold this young man who's done this thing, which
he'll go to therapy and we set him down and
make him accountable. Because I just don't think you should be able to kill people.
No,
do you know what I mean?
I don't think so either. I don't think so either. But I think he's already going to be held more accountable than every CEO of And remember, this is a clear thing I want to add in this conversation is, I think all three of us agree here. This is not about being a CEO, by the way. Like CEO is like a loose title. People have it on their dating profiles. Yeah. So CEO is the thing that I think can sometimes muddy it. I think people should just ask themselves, like, from a corporation standpoint, from an organizational standpoint, like, why is it okay, let's say, for the US government to go in and kill like Al Chapo or Osama bin Laden? Why do they do that?
Yeah.
Why do they do that, right? They do it because they go, look, we know that many people are involved in this organization that is taking people's lives, but we figure if we can get to this person who's the head of the organization, we're making the biggest difference, and that is what we're doing. And then and I say we as the collective, most people do not go, oh, the American government murdered Osama bin Laden.
I say that.
Okay, you say that, but most people do not. Yeah. They'll be like, no. They went after the guy and they got him, okay? And El Chapo's alive, but you get what I'm saying? They'll go like, oh yeah, they shot Pablo Escobar. People won't be like, oh, they murdered him. They're like, no, it was a chase. They got him on the roof. They shot the dude, okay? And so I'm saying in a weird way here. I'm saying on a jury, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm not condoning. I'm not agreeing with, because everyone has a different way to solve their issues, right? I would probably just tweet a lot. I'm just going to put it out there. I would send very scathing tweets and see if I can get a response. He chose a different method. We can't go back on that method. And so I would probably vote that the case is either thrown out, or it would just be a not guilty, or there's probably other ones they give you on that piece of paper. I forget what all of them are from Law and Order, but I'll just be like, yeah, Judge, we find the defendant, man, pretty messed up. This was all messed up. So that's how I see it.
It's going to be the trial of the century.
It really will.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if that kid had Blue Cross Blue Shield? Oh, wait. That CEO would be like, oh,
man. It is.
You're right. United is terrible.
Yeah, no.
Sign up with Blue Cross Blue Shield this month.
Yeah. Well, you know what, my friends? These are some of my favorite conversations to have with you, because we have no facts.
Just feelings.
Just feelings. All speculation. And if you have listened to this entire conversation, remember what I told you at the beginning. None of this is true. None of this is confirmed. None of this is factual. And Josh, Christiana, and Trevor do not stand behind anything that Josh, Christiana, and Trevor have said. This is our disclaimer. But yeah, thanks for listening. What Now with Trevor Noah is produced by Spotify Studios in partnership with Day Zero Productions. The show is executive produced by Trevor Noah, Sanaz Yamin, and Jody Avigan. Our senior producer is Jess Hackle. Claire Slaughter is our producer. Music, mixing, and mastering by Hannes Brown. Thank you so much for listening. Join me next Thursday for another episode of What Now?